from the doorbell camera here at Nancy Guthrie's home that had been tampered with, according to the FBI. And if you look at these images that appear in black and white, Diane, you see an individual who appears to be wearing a backpack and a mask and gloves. And one of those images quite up close to the doorbell camera, the FBI says that is the individual tampered away, according to a message posted on social media by FBI Director Kash Patel. Previously, the FBI has said there are no suspects or persons of interest associated with Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. That now may be changing with the release of these images, though the FBI is not characterizing the individual depicted. You can see where the individual might be reaching close to the camera with a gloved hand to try and tamper with the camera before making entry. This was shortly before 2 a.m. at about 1:47 a.m. Mountain Time, according to a previous release timeline, Diane. And then at 2:12 a.m., a camera inside the house that was not set up to record images was able to detect an individual, an intruder, inside the house. And that's the window when police believe Nancy Guthrie was taken, Diane.
And I want to bring in retired FBI agent and ABC News contributor Brad Garrett. Brad, the FBI director is saying that these images came from back-end data. How does that process work, and how big is this finding?
Well, I think it's a huge finding. Your answer is how difficult it is. I think the short answer is it depends. But obviously, it took them several days working with, I assume, Amazon, who owns Ring, to come up with these images. But you don't have a clear of his face. There are characteristics of this picture that I think are unique.
Brad, your audio is cutting out, so I'm going to go back to Aaron on that. Aaron, any more on how they got these images and what happens next?
We know, according to the sheriff, that they had been working with Google, which owns the Nest security system that Nancy Guthrie had installed. The statement from Director Patel does not specifically say which manufacturer, but that's what the sheriff had told us they were working with to try to recover these images on what the authorities say are the back-end systems. So even if the camera wasn't necessarily recording, or the recording apparatus was removed, they were still able to recover the images, probably by working with the manufacturer, and likely, Diane, with the help of a warrant. So the FBI didn't specifically say, and I'm sure they're not terribly keen to explain how they recovered these images, but they did, and they are now the most important clue that we have seen in the last 9 days. There have been few, if any, leads, no suspects, according to the authorities. And while the individual depicted in a mask and backpack and gloves is not characterized as a suspect, the authorities now have at least one image to go on.
And I want to bring in retired FBI agent and ABC News contributor Richard Frankel. Richard, how big is this development? How significant is this? And where does the investigation go from here?
Yeah, as Aaron just said, this is the biggest development of the investigation, in that they do have pictures now that, while not confirming she was taken, but confirming that there was a masked individual immediately before the time that she went missing. So, as you look at this investigation, it would lead me to believe that this was the person, at least, that was involved in some capacity in the abduction of Nancy Guthrie. And that's just, based upon my observation of what we're seeing. Also, it's hard to make out, is this a man? Is this a woman? Anything more about that. But you can see the eyes. You can see a little bit of the mouth. There are also programs out there, AI-generated techniques that are available to the FBI and to other law enforcement, that they may be able to start getting more information about who this person is. They're going to be taking that picture and they're going to be putting it through every single configuration that they have of every database they have to see if there's anything more that they can get from this picture. They're also going to be looking at the clothing. They're going to be looking at everything associated with these pictures to see if there's anything more that can take them to the next lead. But I think this is a great job by the FBI and by law enforcement. They did not They did not just move on from prior leads. They kept working.
I'm ABC 7's Judy Sue with a look at today's news headlines for you. An SUV
Spotted them on the roof, looking at rooftop cameras that were part of Nancy Guthrie's home security system. So perhaps the hope is they'll be able to recover additional images in addition to the ones that appear to be from the doorbell camera, previously inaccessible to authorities for a variety of reasons, they say. But the hope is to try and build out a much larger profile of this individual. Even though they're not calling the person a suspect, it is the best images authorities and the public now have to go on, Diane.
And so many now hoping that they will lead them to Nancy Guthrie. Aaron, Brad, Richard, thank you all. And investigators are asking anyone with any information related to this case to call either one of those two tip lines on your screen. And we will have much more on ABC News Live and abcnews.com. And David will be back with the whole team from World News Tonight with more on this story later this evening. I'm Diane Macedo. Right now, we'll return to your regular programming. Have a great rest of the day.
This has been a special report from ABC News.